You want me to do an introduction to this?
That's right. However you want.
Yeah.
I really have to think about it because
I'll tell you, just like we told us yesterday, you want to, because
I think that'd be the most interesting way, and then I can fill in any of the significant details.
the thing started out that after we had been overseas, I guess a couple of months, the Dear John letter started coming in. And Crawford had made the statement that that's something that wouldn't happen to him, that he wouldn't get one.
Well, at this point, I don't know whether any of this later generation would know what a Dear John letter was.
Well, Dear John letter was anybody that had a sweetheart before they left home, they got overseas, and they got that letter that said they wasn't a sweetheart no more.
That's it.
And there was a bunch of them that came in. But anyhow, after that statement, Red and I had sort of questioned about it some. So one day I went to the mail call, which we took time about going. Jim had a letter, and something told me, this is it, this is sure, as I'm picking up the mail today.
Must have been something radiating out of it.
Something just told me that is it. And I had a letter, so I just laid down with the bunk and reading my letter and watched Jim, and as he read his, I knew that was it. It was there. So I eased down the motor pool to tell Red, I said, it come a while ago. It did. It did. So he come up through the woods with his mess can saying, a woman's a two-faced, a worrisome thing. So he walked into Crawford and he read it, son of a bitch, you don't know this shut your mouth.
Had I ever spoke harshly to you before that?
No, but you sure did.
Well, Hudson, another time Hudson's with us, when Crawford got excited, So, anyway, we had a big kick out of it. Of course, Crawford didn't think too much of it.
But what tickled me, Jim was so quick to respond when you come.
He caught on. He caught on.
Well, did I just more or less have a reputation for being kind of quiet and easygoing up till that point or something?
Oh, yeah.
The best time I remember, he got sick and laid in a sack all day reading the magazine or something. Couldn't go to work. You the one that told me about it. You come down and told me.
I come down to motor pool and told you about it.
Well, you done wrong there, lady. Well, I don't know what old Hudson had to say. Did he ever say anything?
No, I think Hudson kept pretty quiet after he laid it down on you.
Yeah, he got all disturbed about that beer.
But there is a guy. You can go up here now and just take all the guys that was over there at that time and say, you remember Fitz? No, I don't remember. Remember Crawford? What, maybe?
Yeah.
What about Red? You remember? Yeah, I remember Red. Well, he was just that kind of a guy.
He made his mark everywhere he went.
But the time we got his beer and drunk it and turned it upside down.
That was Hudson.
That's Hudson, yeah. Hey, man, buddy, when he come in there and said, I think I'll have a beer, and he reached down there and got that.
No, he's going to hang one on that.
Yeah, that's right. He wrote to me, he said, you read it? He didn't look at you and Crawford, he looked at me, he said, you read it? It's going to be sure my beer. We done drunk it, hadn't we? Was you on?
We? What do you mean we?
That's what I mean, we.
Where you get that we missed?
Maybe I got his buzz on, didn't I?
Trying to pretend he's teetotal.
That old beer was hot, you'd open it up and half of it would spew out. Best I remember.
Yeah.
But somebody, you were somebody.
There wasn't any refrigeration there.
Yeah, but didn't somebody take some up there and put it in for that old truck we had?
I don't know, but I remember about Hudson's because we'd get an issue of a Coke and a beer.
That's right.
And I'd swap my beer to Hudson for his Coke.
Yeah.
And he had them lined up under his bed right there. He set them all the way in. I guess he had, what, 12 or 14 of them?
Yeah, I guess so.
He's planning on having a
On the 4th of July, he come in there, he said, it's a holiday and I want to hang one on today. Well, he didn't hang one.
He's down there, got that damn beer.
He looked over, he said, you're the
But I used to get old Ole Johnson, you remember him?
Yeah.
He'd give me his beer, see, I'd run him down when they dished it out, I'd run him up right quick. I had me about several in under my bunk, and just lucky nobody never did steal them. That's when he looked around and said, you ready? Look for my beer. He was a pistol.
Do you remember the Christmas we spent, the first Christmas at Watom, when we got an issue of your choice of Australian gin or rum, was what it was? Well, I can enlighten you a little bit, because we didn't have to work on Christmas Day, and everybody in the squadron got a bottle of his choice of one or the other, and we went all up to the mess hall. We had our Christmas turkey and the whole works, and issued that juice. And those of us who had a little more experience were a little more cautious with it, but there was some recruits in camp that had never had any experience of that sort of thing. And the whole camp, after a while during the course of the afternoon, it just began to vibrate. And you remember those recruits that were just down the way from us a little bit, within a tent?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that one that came out, and it started to rain in the afternoon, not hard, just drizzling down, muddy looking. This one kid came out of there, and he could just barely walk, and he got hold of a sapling outside the tent, He started circling around the thing. Pretty soon he just kept getting lower and lower. He finally just fell out flat, on his face in the mud down there. And his two buddies, you must remember this, they came out of the tent and they looked him over, and there he was laying in the mud, stark naked, And they tried to pick him up. They could barely stand themselves. So one of them got one of his feet and the other one got the other foot, and they just dragged him back in the tent.
And I believe that's the time that Johnson, big old Lehman Johnson, wasn't that his name, from Texas? We know him in Texas.
Yeah, I remember the tag.
Real nice guy.
Yeah, nice fella.
And it's either that time or another, somebody got him drunk, or he got drunk, and he come down to our tent, and he thought somebody was going to try to hurt me. And I was afraid one of y'all would come in. He said, "I'll kill this son of a bitch the minute he walks in here and tries to bother you." And I was afraid some of y'all was going to come in. And he was mean.
He was ready to
Yeah,
protect
he
you.
was. And he got sober. I said, "Man, don't you never get drunk again."
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have hurt a flea when he was sober.
I remember that time your mother sent you that sausage, and we
Oh,
went and
man,
put
we
it out
stirred
behind
that
the
whole
tent.
camp up
Hell,
there.
they all come up by wanting some. You remember that?
Well, you tell me I remember. You said I went up to steal some butter from the
Yeah,
house.
you got butter and bread.
Procured.
So how'd you get that box of cigars? What I want to know. You had a box of cigars.
I don't know where I got them, but I bought them at a PX someplace. And,
You went out on a ship one time, a ship
Maybe-
come in there, and you went out on the ship and got some
maybe
stuff.
that's where I got
You
them.
can swap a cigar for a loaf of bread, wasn't it, or something like that, from some CB outfit down the
That was
road.
in Sterling Island, yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
I found this chief
Boy, good
that
bread,
loved
too.
cigars and didn't have any. So
Yeah, that's what
but
big
he
old.
had fresh bread.
Whatever happened to the mess sergeant, Kennedy?
Well, he died several years
Think
ago.
he
Did
died,
he?
yeah, I think
I
he
can
died.
hear him right now. The chaplain's tent was right over next to the mess hall. And he'd get out there saying, "I can meet you in the shit house cellar." I can hear him saying it right now. This is plain.
He was a big fat one, wasn't he?
He wasn't fat, he was a big,
This big.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
yeah, he
big
was-
muscle guy.
Yeah, big
Well,
stout.
now, who was the skinny mess cook? They rotated, then they rotate every week, getting up early and cooking, and every time he was on duty, your damn pancakes wasn't done, or something wrong. Yeah, there's another too there. Get that cat's name, man. Oh, whatever happened here?
You remember that mess hall crew that they had up there on Sterling Island? They had a whole tent full of them. It was like you call light on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, what do they call him?
That's too long ago. Well, was it no Pete Peterson, was it him up there on, I guess either Sterling or Treasure, I was one of them. That he found that little Japanese boat. It had a hole in it, he got it patched up and got him a motor on it, and he was gonna get out there and do some fishing or something. He dropped a hand grenade over the side and hit his engine and blew the bottom out of his boat.
I don't remember that.
Was that Peterson? It must have been after I left there.
I believe it was Peterson, yeah.
Because he got in trouble more than once. You know, he had a French car that he
Yeah, I remember
bought from
that.
somebody there around the boat, and adjusted the wheels on it so they could put some GI tires on
That's
it.
where Red King got in trouble.
And King got in trouble with that too, but Peterson too, they were both in the breakdown there.
You know, when you come to it, that's a hell of a thing to do to man for a damn. Much they stole off the government and everybody else give away, and they got old Red for stealing two little old wheels.
Yeah.
Off a Jeep, wasn't it? Yeah, I wouldn't have, but he,
Well, they couldn't have done anybody carried in the list, Red Kid.
no, he didn't do anything. But you were talking about Brandon a while ago, and there was kids on Sunday evening, and somebody went down, picked up about 5 or 6 pilots. And this little short, and I didn't think it was a pilot, but he was. But anyway, he come in and hell, there's a line along here where the elevator was. And he just passed by everybody else and stuck that man's kid out there. He had that little hat on it. But I happened to be behind Brandon that day. He stuck it in front of somebody, but in front of Brandon. Brandon tapped him on the shoulder, and his captain thing had come in under like that, and he couldn't see who it was. He said, "Hey, Lieutenant, the line formed back here." Oh, I said, "I'm a lieutenant." He said, "Yes, and I'm a captain." Said, "Get your ass back there." And the damn man went home and wouldn't eat. He went down to where they stayed in that house, you know, when they turned in on Tuesday. He never did eat, I don't reckon, that night. But he sure did. He got
His
awful.
appetite spoiled right
He got
there.
awful disturbed about that. But when Landon pulled that rag on him, why, he ain't no better. They them officers doing the same thing.
What
They
ever
did,
happened?
They did.
What was it? Trebon.
Hmm?
Do you remember him?
Bernard Trevon, yeah, I remember.
You know, I was in the hospital there on
I mean, when you went to hospital one time.
and Trebon was down there. And I never will forget what happened. We was in the tent. We was in the same tent.
Yeah.
And he came in. I'd been there a while, and he came in. And the nurse came through there. It was right after the 1 or 2 nurses had come over there, and they had your name tag hanging on the end of the cot. And she come prancing in there, and she reached down and got that. She said, "Good morning, Trevin. What's your trouble?" He said, "My name's Trebon and I got the clep." Moose, they called him Moose, didn't they?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
He wasn't the only one though.
He said, "My name's Trebon and I got the clep."
I tell you, some of those experiences that you think about. I think about Red, I think about the motor pool, and then I think about Andy Anderson in the motor pool.
Yeah.
Remember how he got busted back from sergeant to private one time? You know, he was regular Army and he'd been in for quite a while, and he was just naturally disposed to getting in trouble one way or another. And they had a big flatbed trailer they were hauling those airplanes on out from Noumea.
Yeah.
And it took up all the road because it was only like a 2-lane, less than a 2-lane road out there from Noumea. And he had I think a Jeep that was supposed to escort him, and the officer, and one day he was going back to Noumea from Tantuta with an empty flatbed trailer. And it was dirt all the way down there to Noumea except for about the last 10 miles.
Yeah.
You were on that detail yourself. And the commanding general of the island got in behind him. And no Anderson wouldn't let him pass. He dusted him all the way until he got to
That old badge.
yeah. Next morning, his Private Anderson again.
Well, let's see, they got me for speeding in one of them GI trucks, and they wrote, who wrote the ticket, the man in charge of transportation now, and said, "You're going to have to punish him one way or the other." Well, of course, he told me this. He said, Fred said, "We'll have to do something." He said, "So I think what we'll do is just give you a week's KP." And man, them damn monsoon seemed it rained every damn day.
You know, a guy I think of real often,
No.
it's a shame that it had to wind up his life the way it did, Kenneth Markle. Markle he was in the Army, and he and I worked together.
Yeah.
And we serviced planes at Guadalcanal down on the other side of the hangar, down next to the bank.
And both of you are in that picture, you know, in that book I told you about.
And we dug us a foxhole. You got up there, you had to see if that plane got off the ground before you went in the ground. And sometimes you're sort of late getting in there. And so we dug us a foxhole right close to where our plane was parked. When we got to where the pilots would come over there, and the time we'd get our plane off the ground and get there, the thing would be full, we couldn't get in. And old kid told me one day, he said, "Fitz, you know what's going to happen?" He said they're gonna make a direct hit on that hole these days. It's as sure as me and you are talking. And, I guess a couple of days went by, and they had an air raid. Of course, the pilots come out there, and we went out there and got the planes off. And I started the hole, and the captain said, "Not today, Fitz, come on, jump over this bank." And we went down there at the end of the runway and jumped over the bank and got a direct hit on that hole right there.
They made me knock over.
He come back, I don't know, whoever, I don't remember how many, but there was the pilots that was in that foxhole.
Brandon was in that one too at that day.
And Marco came back to New Caledonia and was pitching a tow target out of a Jeep and was snatched out and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It sure was.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
think of that old boy.
He got his leg wrapped up in the lines on it.
Mhm.
You know what I remember about him? He was a dedicated atheist. You remember that?
Yeah.
And on my second tour up there on Fighter 2, he was up there at that time. There was a fellow named Rochard, too, that was up there.
Remember him?
Yeah. He got killed because he was another atheist that didn't believe in getting in a foxhole. And they got him right in the doorway of his tent. He was on his way to a foxhole. But what happened to Marco? He had, he wasn't interested in religion or anything. You remember when the 164th Infantry came in?
Yeah.
You remember they had a chaplain with them?
Yeah.
You remember what Marco did? He went over, got the chaplain, brought him over to our place, and he had a little service.
Yeah. Marco, another reason that I have a soft place in my heart for him, of course, we were just a bunch of kids over there, didn't know anything about,
Didn't know
I knew
about
something about guns, but not airplane guns and that kind of stuff. And he was good to me. Anything that I had a problem with on my planes, I could go to Marco and he'd hit me out. And I just got a soft spot in my heart for the guy.
Talking about ammunition and guns and so on. Remember Tech Sergeant Letson and Master Sergeant Letson, who was armament man?
No.
Well, he made a remark that should be seared into your memory because he was involved with them when they were running out of ammunition there in Guadalcanal, and they were flying missions, one just as hard as they could. And the chaps were landing on the beach up the road. We'd been all bombed out, shelled out. This one lieutenant came in and he said, "Sergeant Letson," he says, "I got to be refueled." And he says, "You got to reload my gun." He says, "I got to." And Sergeant Letson says, "Well, Lieutenant," he says, "we're out of ammunition." He says, "We don't have any more ammunition right now." But then the lieutenant said, "Well, Sergeant," he says, "the Japs are landing right up to, about 3 or 4 miles up here." And he says, "I got to have some more ammunition." And Letson says, "Well, Lieutenant," he says, "we don't have any ammunition." Says, Lieutenant kept on. He says, "Sergeant," he says, "they're coming after us." He says, "We got to have some more ammunition." Letson says, "Lieutenant," he says, "I can't shit ammunition, You remember that incident?
No, I can't recall it.
Well, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
You may not have been on the scene at that time, but I was there.
A lot of funny things happened up there. Now, was he one of the China people?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Red King and Marco and was Hereford?
Hinkle?
Hereford was one.
Hinkle, that way he was?
Yeah.
He was one of them.
Yeah,
Who was the guy that,
About 11 or 12 of them, wasn't
who was,
Deutsch was another one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, who was the guy that never did draw a payday and he's gonna sue the government or something? He's about a half wit or something.
Yeah,
What
he
was
was.
he wasn't even drawing no damn money.
No.
What was his name? A big,
Hines
pretty
or something
heavy
like
set
that,
guy. I remember
yeah. I
him.
know what you mean.
Yeah.
He funny thing happened to him later on in his second excursion or third one up there. He was, the Japs were pretty much gone off the island then, and he was out riding around in a Jeep someplace about 10 miles up from Henderson Field along the beach. I don't know whether he encountered a campfire or something, but he was near a campfire at any point, in any case. And it was a piece of ammunition, probably 30 caliber or something, went off in there and clipped him on the leg a little bit. Just raised the skin, you might say. He put in for a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
There's something else that sticks out in my mind. I remember Guadalcanal. When we got up there, I was shocked at the grass that was on the field. You know, they had that big old high grass and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, about the second or third day, we had little old pup tents sitting all around the hangar down there. And they dropped an incendiary bomb up there above that thing. That fire burnt down to that, just like this was the hangar. It went out, and I remember my tent was sitting right over here, and there's several more beside it. And it went right out, just beyond them tents. Burnt right down and didn't touch on it. I remember that just as well as it happened yesterday.
I remember that same fire, and you know what I learned about that? When the air raid siren went off, you put on a long sleeve sheet, long sleeve shirt, and a pair of long pants.
They keep your head below the ground for a while.
Because you couldn't fight a fire when you were wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt or just a t-shirt or nothing, you know. But you could get close to a fire if you had long pants on and a long sleeve shirt. And there was a 50-gallon drum of gas caught fire out there that day. And the gas was generating like a gas lantern, you know, and that flame was shooting out of that thing. You remember how we put it out?
No, I don't.
Finally just shoveled enough dirt up under it, we smothered it.
It's funny how certain things you remember and certain things that you don't remember.
How close would we want to get to a 50-gallon drum of gas?
Right.
Burning
Now,
to
how
death?
close would you get to it?
Yeah. We didn't think we knew.
Oh, yeah, you've done things out of the ordinary that, you know, spur of the moment that you wouldn't think about now, otherwise.
Were you sitting up at the hangar the night the first artillery shell came in there from up in the hills? You remember laughing at me about it?
Yeah. Me and him took us a foxhole for the shelling when they come in shell. Come in, they slipped up on us one night, we made a dive for foxhole just big enough for one to get in at a time. We both went in at the same time. I was skin on this side, he was skin on this side. Oh, Lord have mercy. But you know, that was, as far as being scared, I guess that scared me worse than anything that happened the whole time I was overseas. Was those shells hitting that island, and that whole darn island. And I sat there and I read in school and studied about a bunch of those atolls over there were just built upon like a mushroom, you know, they sitting up on a stem. I could see that whole darn island. Boy, you ain't never been shook when them big 12 inches come in there and hit the dang dirt.
You're talking about your hearing going bad, and the doctor says that's what it was. I have a hearing loss at a certain point. My hearing is normal up to a point like that, and it goes way down like that, comes back up again and goes on and is normal. But I have a ringing in my ears that never stops.
The ring.
I don't have the ring, but I can't hear. And I get worse all the time.
I can hear it right now. I mean, my hearing is okay otherwise, but that ringing sound never stops.
I've been laid off going to get my ears cleaned out. Did you ever see what they can get out of your ears?
Yes.
Oh, Lord, it's outrageous.
One of the women said about our preacher, when Ella gets elegant in talking, I just can't understand anything she said. I have to strain, and she gets tired of me asking her what she said. And she'll say, I wish you, I said, I can't help it now, don't fuss at me. If you can't hear it, you can't hear it. And especially is it bad when there's noise. Now, like we're talking here, I can hear pretty good, but there's a little other noise going on with this, I can't separate it.
Well, that noise level in that room this afternoon was something else.
Yes, it was.
And I was surprised that it picked it up like it did.
What they got on beside of course, we eat and what else, just a program or something they got tonight?
It's just a meal, I don't know what it is.
As far as I know, that's all it is, yeah.
What they got? We'll drag it out here pretty early in the morning. If you can, of course, Billy, she's slow as hell.
Well, those are interesting days, I tell you. Just thinking about something leads you to thinking about something
Remember
else.
the time we was on New Guinea and that guy, he was bombing that damn island over. That's where we got my arm broke out in there. You remember it? And they shot at him, and you could just see him bounce him all over the place. They never did hit that damn plane. Them people.
What was the name of that little island up there? You wouldn't.
It wasn't Sterling, was it?
No, it wasn't Sterling. It's this little island, Biak or something like that.
There was one called
The
Biak.
damn runway run off each end, Crawford. Yeah, wasn't
And we
it?
lived over on the mainland,
Yeah,
and
2
the
days.
airport was over on the.
On the
They
island.
took it back and forth.
LST.
And that's where I broke my damn wrist.
Well, you broke your arm when we landed in New
Yeah,
Guinea.
that damn barge hit a damn sand.
We left, I guess it was Treasure Island.
Yeah.
We left and went by boat. They sent us up by boat. He come around one day and said, "Fitz, you got any money?" I said, "Yeah, that's at least loan $50. I said, "Red, you just lose it." I said, "You've been gambling, you're going to lose it." He said, "You got any money?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You going to loan me $50? I said, "Yeah, I'll loan you $50, but I hate to see you lose it." So I gave him $50. See him after that. "How you doing, Red?" "Come on, hold him on." What, we week?
Something like
About a
that.
week. And every time I see him there, it's like, I'll hold him on. Well, we got up to the north end of New Guinea and got off the ship. They put us on those LSTs. And if you remember, the front of them would drop down and they had ribs, big old ribs sticking out that far.
Yeah.
Well, he and I was right in the front, and they had the thing just crammed full.
Oh, you did?
And that guy that was running it had it wide open going into the beach. And we was flooding into that second run of cars yonder, and we hit ground.
Hit a sandbar?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, everybody just swarmed us and just caught his arm, his right arm, for his right arm right against one of those things, and just, you could hear it pop.
Just like that, boy.
When
Hell, I passed out, I walked
Yeah.
out, passed cold in the mackerel, didn't I?
Yeah. So we got him over and got it set, and got our tent set up. And I guess was there a couple of days, and they got this old story going again that if they could get us paid, you know, we haven't been paid in a long time. If they get us paid, they're going to send us to New Zealand or somewhere on furlough.
Don't be from there, send us nowhere.
So we sat down and cut one day and just talking to him. And he's just me and him in there. He said, if they get us paid, we'd go to New Guinea on furlough. Well, I've been writing his letters and everything for him, for his writing. He said, "Flick, let that in the barracks bag and hand me that cigar box out of there." I got that cigar box in there. That's counting on $3,000 on that dang boat. He said, "Now paying the troops is all it's going to take." He said, "I can get them paid."
You know how I brought that back? In a damn gas mask. You know them bunks they had on the trail? I had the top bunk, and there's a bunch of pipes running right across it. I stuck that down. Somebody had stole it. I stuck that up there, and you know I covered it. When I got over there, getting ready to go home, I turned in the finance, and they gave me 4 checks. Two $1,000 checks, and 2 $500 checks. Just a day, and I blowed it. I went through every damn bit in a year. In a year, I blowed it in a year. I ain't lying. And I'd do the same thing again if situation like it was. I meant having fun. I did. But
Well, now, did you fly back or did you go back?
I come back on a freighter. Best eating I ever had in my life. First Marines running, and you just walked in. I might told you. You just walked in and sat down. There's a menu on board. Egg, bacon, anything you want, something. They brought in and
Well, they flew me back down.
Well, they did me too. That's where I left from.
And every time there'd be a plane leaving, they'd have somebody that was wounded, you know, and
Yeah.
they'd send them back. And I stayed down there for, I guess.
I think you went about a day or two before I did.
Probably so.
We were going along. You know them down one sector mountain range. They down in there and they ain't ever found it. Me and old Doc Grooms and Jawkins and I think about 2 more, we was playing cards, and Doc looked out and one of them motors on that DC-3 quit. Bumped it up already. Look at there, there's that motor down. And you know, he made a beeline that had 2 little kids flying, looked like about 19 years old, flying with their damn knees now, and they had a cigar, had a can there, and both of them smoking cigars. And Doc tapped him on the shoulder. He said, "Hey, Lieutenant, what's wrong with that motor out there?" I said, "I just cut it out." He said, "My God, cut it on. I'm going home." And he reached over and flipped the switch.
I
and
was
it just
somewhere
come
on the plane with Doc. And
Was it coming back?
I don't know, it wasn't coming back. It first got over there because the staff sergeant was flying the plane. It was an enlisted staff sergeant
Well,
flying the
listen
plane.
to that old
And there was
lieutenant.
gambling back there in the back, and the pilot come back, and the staff sergeant come back there, and Doc realized that he was a pilot. He noticed. And they come down there one day and come in and told us, said, Sergeant, we got a hospital ship going back to state, and we need a baker to bake at night. And would you take a position as night baker to go back on? And he said, they told him, said, you have to get you some help. And I said, hell, I'm going to be a baker help you out. So that's the way I come back to this. I came back on a hospital ship, and we baked at night.
But I went down there fishing for 2 or 3 days.
Oh, I did. I stayed down there a
Yeah,
month.
they called their name out and told us.
Let me tell you how I got back. It was exciting too. You know, George Dunn and I came back together. So we got an appointment to engineering cadet school. The only two that ever came out of the 13th Air Force, as far as I know.
What about Claybo?
I don't know about
I
it.
thought he'd come back on. No, his was an officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right there.
But we got out of Sterling, Iowa, no problem at all, you know, because MAG-25 was flying those DC-3s down the Guadalcanal. We got down there, we had a Class 4 priority to go back on the Air Transport Command. Those planes kept coming through from New Guinea, and they had bomber crews loaded up Class 2 and Class 3 priorities. So we were at Henderson Field there for a week, waiting for a ride. Finally, we found a B-17 that was going to New Caledonia. So we got on it. He was going back to Hawaii for repairs, but it had to stop down there. I saw a friend after we got down there who asked me how we'd gotten there, and I said we just came in on that B-17 over there. He looked at me kind of funny. He says, well, if I was you, he says, I'd try to find me something else to ride on, because he says there's a spar in the left wing, and that airplane has got a crack about this wide in it. And he said, I don't think I want to ride on it. I said, well, what do you recommend? He said, well, he said, B-17 is going back, I mean a B-24, and he says, I think you can get on it. And he said, and there it is. He says, they just had it up for a test hop. I looked over there, and it was coming in for a landing, just running down the runway, and the tail turret out of the back of it was gone. And there was 3 guys sitting back there with their arms over the side like this, just riding like they were in a rumble seat. We went over and talked to the pilot. He said, yeah, you can ride with us. So we got on. They struck out for the Fiji Islands. It was in the afternoon sometime. We were going to land at Nandi, which was a big base there. We got to Nandi and we couldn't land because it was socked in with fog. They couldn't see it. So they had a conference and they decided, well, maybe we can make it to Baker Island. That's 600 miles out, but we've never been there before, and it'll be after dark when we get there. So there's a fighter strip down at Suva. Just one of those little mat strips, you know, big enough for fighter planes. And here we are in a B-24. I will remember to this day, looking out the window of that thing, where the waist guns used to be, and looking at a bunch of rice paddies that we were flying over, coming into Suva. I remember thinking, well, this B-24 has got a high wing on it, and I said if they leave the wheels up, they can just slide into those rice paddies. You know, if the worst comes to worst. But he got it down there and landed it. And, I mean, he must have had his feet on the brakes, you know, as soon as he hit the ground.
That steel net was hard on tires, wasn't it?
We thought about that too, but they took us down and the Red Cross put us up that night. We had some warm water to drink, and I don't remember nothing much to eat. Next morning at daylight, we were back out there again, and this little captain said, well, he says, if we landed, he said, we can take it off.
You got on to go.
We ran it down to the end where the tail stuck out over the ditch that was at the end of the strip, you know. He and the co-pilot sat there with their feet on the brakes, and they run the engines up until they had a red line, you know, and then they just turned it loose. he just kept it on the ground till he got to the end, pulled the nose up and pulled the wheels up. It flew.
That'd
Yeah, you know, you could do a lot of things when you got the tight
Yeah,
head,
yeah.
couldn't you?
Whenever we just started taking off and coming down Fitzgerald where you was at, me and old Dr. Groom dropping, there were two little kids flying that damn DC-3 and the damn thing had a dead battery in it. We'll turn the props over. He said, wait a minute, said, I think I know where one is. So the guy that brought us down in the Jeep, they went and gone about 5, 10 minutes, 15 maybe. Here they come back with a doggone battery, put it in, and damn if it wasn't dead. So he said, wait a minute, I'll go back and get another. He went back and got one, finally got it started. His missing, running rough. Hell, he said, hell, I'm going anyway. And they let him off. I don't have to let him out of there, and it rough as it was.
About 2 years ago, I saw a program advertised on television, and I taped it. 10 years before we were on New Guinea during World War II, there was 2 gold miners out of Australia or New Zealand, I think it was Australia, I believe, over there hunting gold. Went back into the interior of New Guinea and found a tribe of people that didn't nobody know they was in there.
Read about those.
They'd never seen a white person, and they scared them to death. It was a ghost that come back. Anyhow, it went on, and these old guys had learned to interpret and talk back and forth, and they put up there, when the native would speak, then they'd put that on there what he was saying. And one of the things I remember on it, it said their skin is white, but the shit smells like ours. And the airplane come in there and like scared them to death. They fixed the place there, and they got them, and the natives couldn't understand what they was getting to level that place off for.
Yeah.
And they had an airplane come in there, and they showed them, and they all took off running and like wild Indians.
Probably still running.
They were
Yeah.
living in the Stone Age.
Yeah, and then they'd never seen a white man, didn't even know there's anybody else.
Well, you know, one of them Frenchmen told me down there when we landed on New Caledonia, 13 months before we got there, they took a bunch and cut their heads off right there in that square. You remember that square there in the mill?
Yeah.
But the government put a stop to that. But that's the last time he said they brought, them natives had a war up there between themselves. Here they come down the road with vines
They had a
running
war
down
over there
there.
just last year.
Yeah, it sure did. I read about it. Yeah, but they cut these cats' heads off. And I seen one, he had a scar that come from right here, plumb down in under here. Great big pussy got a guy, and he had one. No, it went down this way. He'd been in a fight with somebody.
At, what reunion was it? I don't remember which one it was, but I talked to 2 pilots that had gone back to New Caledonia,
I know the one.
Canal,
Yeah, I know the one you mean. Yeah.
and they said that New Mill wasn't nothing but a tourist attraction.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a man you wouldn't believe.
There's 60,000 people there now.
Said they had
Right
a
there.
big hotel, fine, and they went on to tell about. They said they got to Guadalcanal and you couldn't even tell where Henderson Field was at.
Yeah.
None of it you recognized at all. Said he couldn't tell anything at all about it. It all goes back up.
I seen it on TV.
Did you know that the New Caledonians want you to come back in a couple of years? They're going to have a reunion.
Yeah, I believe I read that somewhere. I forget where I read that somewhere.
Wonder if that airfield's still up there, Tontuta.
Yeah, it is.
Tontuta.
In fact, I saw a picture.
Was it Plenty Guy? Was that?
What was one
That's
north?
way up at the north end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when Doc Blues, the pilot, went up in the Cub plane. He landed on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
Iced up on the carburetor.
Talk about Doc Drew. When we came back to the States, I don't know how we all hit back together, but me and Doc and Red and several of us hit back at Miami at the same time. It just so happened we all left overseas at a different time, but for some way or another, we all hit back to Miami at the same time. So we had been out there, Red and I'd been out somewhere one day at night, I don't even remember when that was. And we come in and Doc and had this old whack over there on the couch, and they were all rubbed up and just carrying on something off. Red said, Fitz, watch it. Hey Doc, you a fucking nigger? Old Doc's eye got big, he just sat there. Red said, well, did you? And he said, yeah. Well, old Hank jumped up and took off.
He cut me out.
He never heard a man cussing on that as bad, you know.
But you didn't always bragged on it, you know. Down Mississippi.
Go back and said they called him quarterback.
Yeah,
You cracked that little nigger, made him give me his quarterback.
Yeah. Boy, he was a
He wasn't
dude.
satisfied.
I like
But
him.
you know, you told me the rest of that deal too about Doc Rooms, and Red asked him later on, he said, well, why did you admit it, Doc? What did, and he,
Yeah, you son of a bitch, you'd argue with me.
You remember when we put them barrels down there with the motor pool and everybody took a shot? Well, Doc hadn't went on about
Yeah.
that long.
He got
When
his
Doc
job,
got-
didn't
He got at the jog and I looked around. They was going up toward the field, up toward the camp, just like that naked as a jelly bird. Doc Dick just flopping around. I like to have a picture of that. Well, he was a dead. You know how he left that first town when he got out of school and set up practice? You know what caused him to leave?
probably got in trouble with some woman there.
He did, and knocked the mayor's daughter up.
Yeah.
And he went to, somebody got wind to him that the mayor's gonna put it on him, so he went to his lawyer. What the best thing to do is, the best damn thing you can do is join the army.
Yeah.
He said, well, I tell you what, I said, if you'd pay my bills, said, you can have all that stuff over I bought, just sell it and keep the money. He left the next day. He told me that out of his own mouth.
That doc was something else.
Somewhere down Mississippi, he said,
What he died with.
I don't know, never did. I wish I don't know what, but I'd like to know. I wish I did know. But he's nice looking when you got him all pleased up and scrubbed down.
They told about that trip they went up north in that little old park cub. Said they landed on the side of the mountain and said they got out there and took the fuselage off. So he looked at the engine and said, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Pa said, I don't either. So they got back in and took off again.
Then what, he had accordion in the order room, didn't he? Then what,
Doc, no, you parachute man.
Yeah, that's right.
Parachute.
I'm thinking about old, him Brooklyn Harris.
Brooklyn Harris, yeah.
Harris was
He lost
early.
his ass. Somebody told me, see him and old Harvey, pretty good buddies. I think they still correspond. I think Harvey went up there and seen him a while.
Well, that didn't he take over first sergeant in the 67th when Cordy came was 339?
I don't know.
I believe he did.
He may have.
Yeah, I think he
He
did.
may have, I don't know.
That's what he told me down in Panama City.
I ain't hear this about Cordy Danforth, no.
That's too
You
bad.
tell them, boys.
Yeah, I thought Cordy done an excellent job.
I told him he did out there at that meeting.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, Cordy, you made a good speech. He said, thank you. He never did do it.
But his wife she was tore up.
And Lord, you know she was. Now, he had a girl, didn't he? He had a daughter, right?
I believe so.
I think so.
Had a
'cause
grandson named Wesley, I know
Yeah.
that.
Well, you know, we
Like
was
to talk
somewhere,
about it.
and I believe my mate, correct me if I'm wrong, and she was expecting a kid, and she had that kid while he was down. One of these reunions, wasn't it? Because he called back and said it got here and everything is all right. Where was that at?
I don't remember which one they were.
But I remember
He
it
talked
was.
about him, I know.
Yeah. He just had the one kid.
Parker come down to the room last night. And I told him, I thought he had an awful good reunion.
He sure did, he really did.
And he's something else too, that Parker is.
Yeah.
Interesting group of folks, I'll tell you that. Interesting things happen to them. You were talking about getting on a boat, going to Guadalcanal. You remember how we got off that boat? Over the side on the ladder.
On a rope
On
ladder.
the rope ladder.
Yeah.
You remember, we get down there and you get down at the bottom of the ladder and the guy was in a Higgins boat, you know, and he tried to hold it up under there where you could just jump down into it, but every once in a while he'd have to pull away. You remember Edwin J. Czerniakowski got down at the bottom of that ladder with a barracks bag in one shoulder and a musette bag in another, and a pistol and a tin hat and everything. He's down on the bottom step of the ladder and they pulled the boat out from under him.
Yeah. This old boy downtown, when he lived
That's
Daisy,
where the torpedo was laying up on the
Yeah.
shore when we pulled up
They
on
pulled
the.
us up on the beach. and
this old
everything.
boy from Daisy right now, well, he was the third one on the canal. He was a Marine, and he was the third man hit the island when they invaded. And he was in the moonshine business, and him and his buddy was in it, But when he had to go to service, well, his buddy took over. Well, when he come back, he didn't want to cut him back in. Man, he killed a couple guys over that.
I tell you, that's what.
You were held in. He
Moonshine
wasn't
is a
moved.
serious business.
Yeah, I wouldn't get any. I think I'm gonna have to go get cleaned up.
Yeah, I guess we're all good.
I gotta take a bath. That's what I got to do.
Oh, trying to see what Mama's talking about.
Well, if you see my mom up there,
Run her down.
you can get a word in edgeways. Well, you're gonna keep that, I hope.
I'm gonna copy it. See if I can, how much I can get for it, so.